I don't have much to say tonight. We were just together last week. But I want to clarify a few things before we get into presentations about the budget process. And I just want to say that by the time these presentations come together and come to board meetings, there has been months of work behind the scenes. So everyone presenting to you both last week and tonight knew that these budgets had to be looked at with a critical eye and to be kept as lean as possible to keep the district running at the level to which we're accustomed, but also acknowledging that this is a hard year financially. But I also want to assure you that this board has been asking a lot of questions along the way. We try to email a lot of our questions to the presenters that we know we're going to want answered before our meetings so that by the time the presentations are crafted, they're as coherent as possible. We know that if we have questions, the community will have the same questions, so we try to have those answers incorporated into the presentations. So that hopefully there is information filled and addressing a lot of questions in advance. I also want to note one thing about public comment. Public comment is an opportunity to raise issues, voice concerns, or even provide positive feedback to the board or administration. But it is not a forum to make disparaging comments about a group or groups of people. While we hope that people would refrain from doing that at all, if you have something you feel must be said, please find another method of communication, such as email. As I previewed last week, the contract for the literacy review is on our agenda for approval tonight. We are really excited to work with Patty and Eleni. This team really blew us away with their approach and how professional and lovely they are, as well as how collaborative their approach is with our teachers and with our families doing this literacy audit. And I also just want to clarify, as we're approving this tonight, that this contract is hopefully being completed, at least a lot of the interviewing with teachers and working with teachers this school year, and is being paid for out of this year's budget. Mm-hmm. So it's not factoring into next year's budget. And that is all for me tonight.
Okay, thank you. So before I begin, and we have a lot of great grants on the presentation, the community update this evening, I just want to also comment on public comment, because I spoke to a parent last week very upset that I didn't address comments made regarding Islam that were said during the public comment period. And while I respect and I understand the law, and I acknowledge people have a right to attend and publicly express their views, I just want to reiterate that it's important that we're all mindful of the diverse array of families in our community, each with their own faiths and beliefs. And I want to say specifically to our Muslim families, you are valuable and your children are incredibly important in our schools and as members of our school community. And so I want to reemphasize that the most effective avenue for addressing concerns about the curriculum or what's happening in your child's classroom is through direct communication with your child's teacher or the building administrator. So I did want to share that, and so thank you for giving me the time to do so. And so now we're going to move into the community update. Okay, so I wanted to share that the New York State Education Department has allocated the district money to have a universal pre-K program. So we are exploring that. This is not in our budget. We're not sure we're going to be able to do it, but we are in this first steps of trying to figure out if this is something that we could offer to families. And we already know where we would run it. We would run it in the annex building in Grafflin, but there's a lot of unknowns. But we do have an RFP posted to help us figure out how to begin exploring this process moving forward. So I did want to share that publicly with the understanding that we're not prepared to answer any questions or give any additional information other than we are looking at this as a possibility for it to occur at some point during the next school year, which may not even be in September. So but just know that we're going to continue to update the community on where we are with this process. It's very complicated. There's a lot of steps that we need to take outside the district to make this happen, to get the appropriate documentation. But we're in the first step of this process. Okay, so now, Adam, did you want to talk a little bit more about our science of reading RFP and then our consultants.
Yes, if I could, the RFP process actually went through 2 rounds. As the board knows, we were unsuccessful with the first round after several interviews, and then relaunched the RFP. And then through the second round, the Board of Education interviewed several firms, and we ended up picking one. So you'll see on your agenda 5.12 Theory Practice LLC. It's going to be $65,000 for their review. They have assured us that they can conduct the review this school year, so we can take it out of this school year's budget, and we'll have the review completed by June 30th, which is important for professional development and planning that can happen over the summer. So I just took a screenshot of a couple of the pieces of their proposal that I thought would be helpful to the board and the community with regard to how they're going to approach this review. They have assured us that they're going to use surveys. They're going to do focus groups with a variety of stakeholders, students, staffs, parents, et cetera. They're going to do walkthroughs of our building. They're going to do some longer observations of quite a few classrooms, and they're going to work with our Science of Reading Literacy team of teachers that we've put together. So we anticipate that they'll be presenting to the board later in the spring with regard to their findings.
And before we, do you want to say something? Oh, okay. Before we go into our CSF grants, as you know, at the last meeting, we talked about how we were having our girls flag football team, and we received a donation from the New York Giants that has a lot of different equipment that the team is using. And then we just received a check for $1,500. So that'll be on the next agenda. So we want to thank the Giants for their support. And so you can just kind of see some of what was sent to us in the mail that the girls have already started using. So it's exciting. Right? Yes, I think some of them are with one of the quarterbacks on the team. I don't know enough about it, but I saw a picture and it looked great. Okay, so now we're going to move into our traditional grants. I'm going to give the clicker to Adam.
Great, thank you. So we have our co-chairs of the CSF Grants Committee, Kamal and Todd are here. They're going to come up to the mic in just a minute, but I want to go through the grants that we hope you will approve tonight. And there's quite an impressive slate. We have Insta grants that you approve pretty regularly, but then there's also a formal grant process for the larger grants that teachers can submit to the CSF team. They go through these grants with the administration. There's a vetting process. There's a couple of rounds of review of these grants, and eventually the CSF board votes on these grants. So these are the donations for this year's larger grants. Is for a Bell television and audio studio kind of redesign. As we've seen, Seven Bridges has a pretty sophisticated studio, as does Greeley. Bell's studio is not nearly of the same level. So this is a grant for $120,000 for the furniture and the equipment that will bring Bell up to the same level as some of our other secondary schools in the district. So that's the first CSF grant. Thank you for that. That one was written by Mr. Curtis, Ms. Moskowitz over at Robert Bell. The next grant, written by our Greeley Science Department, is so we can build a sea urchin habitat. The sea urchin habitat will be used by several of our science classes, but this grant will provide a lot of the kind of hardware that we would need to create this, kind of think of like a fancy saltwater fish tank where we can support sea urchins. And sea urchins actually use quite a bit in science for a variety of studies that the high school students can do there. So this grant is $12,500, just over $12,500. The next grant is to create a piano studio at Horace Greeley High School. Neil Walker submitted this grant. As you can see, just over $26,000. This is a pretty amazing place, and it was interesting to read through the proposal. The idea here is that the students' pianos, we can teach piano and keyboarding in the room. You could walk in and not actually hear any pianos being played because the students are playing in their own headsets, but they can actually listen to, and the teacher can control who's hearing what. So the teacher can play for the whole class to hear, or individual students can play for each other, and the teacher can control that through the control board there. Obviously, if they take the headphones off, they can also actually play the piano so they can hear each other without the headphones on. So it's a pretty neat, so it's a pretty neat system. I've actually been in classes like this in other school districts, and it's kind of interesting to see lots of kids playing their pianos, keyboards, but not hear them, but they can all hear themselves and hear each other depending on what the lesson is. So thank you to the CSF for that grant. think it's going to bring our music program to the next level. And then 5.7, you'll find a science research grant. Our science research students, you can see the boards, and we've had so much success. I know you've seen our students standing next to these project boards where they present at various competitions. We've been using project boards that are actually made mostly of cardboard. Our science research teacher, Jerry Zupan, would like to make those boards out of wood so we can reuse them. So this is actually a grant for some supplies. Our students are going to build these boards, but they actually need the supplies. So you can see a prototype over there on the right side, and then kind of our cardboards that we've been making. The students have been doing a great job with just their cardboard displays, but we think this will be able to, we can reuse them and it'll kind of lift the level of that presentation. So you can see that grant there for just over $8,000. And then the next one, 5.8, is for robotics. We actually bought quite a few pieces of robotics when we opened up the STEAM building, but this is to kind of refresh a lot of those supplies, modernize them, replace some that have fallen into disrepair or been lost or used over the years. And so this is a $12,960 grant by Nick Ritter and Andrew Taylor. Mr. DeBellis is here in the audience. I'm sure his crew will also use these supplies and benefit from this grant. And then the next one, 5.9. This is an incredible grant. This is an electric car. And this electric car is actually one that comes with a curriculum. It's designed by a company called Switch. It's a Switch car. And the electric car is built by the students. And after it comes with a whole semester long or year long curriculum where the students build the different components, and then it can actually be deconstructed and rebuilt the next semester or the next year, or we could just give it to Dr. Ackerman to drive in the Memorial Day parade. Or Mr. Block will be driving it around the athletic field. So we'll see how that goes. But it's an incredible opportunity. It's a $78,000 grant. And we think it's really going to bring the whole STEAM building experience to the next level. We'll get that project deck up and open, and pretty soon we'll have an electric car on it, which is pretty neat. You can see the courses there to enhance the engineering, robotics, industrial design courses. Yep, those are the grants. So maybe I could have our grants chairs. If you want to say a few words, come on up to the microphone. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Komal Basim Malik, and I'm one of the co-grant chairs. Really, the backbone to the CSF Grants Committee is Todd Harrell over here, who's been doing it for years and been doing a great job. But on behalf of the CSF board, we just wanted to thank you all, Josh and Jamie and Adam and Christine and Lisa for all your organization and helping us. There's a lot of background work that goes into a lot of this from the first grants that come in, and you guys have been so helpful in working with us to make sure we can get these grants through and they can be implemented in the schools. We also want to thank all the community members and the businesses who support us and who support the CSF through their donations and coming to all of our events. We, as a board, are very proud and very excited to fund over $275,000 worth of grants this year from the elementary. So, we're very excited, and there's a lot of fun ones this year. And our grants this year stem all the way from kindergarten up to 12th grade. So we span all the levels of school and all grades, which is really nice. And if we could just take a couple of minutes to, our gala is coming up on May 2nd at Goose Feather again, and we'd love to see the support from the community, and most of our board is always there. And it's really a fun event, and we just want to thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I mean, the thanks really goes to CSF and to the work that you guys have put in continuously, not only for this slate of grants, but for all of the grants that you've given to the schools over the years. And we thank you so much for your work. I have so many questions about the sea urchins, but I will ask those another time. But these all look really amazing. And it's incredible that our students can have these opportunities to work on such forward-thinking curriculum and projects. And we couldn't do it without the CSF and these grants. So we thank you. And our students thank you, even if they don't know from whence these magical projects appear, but we know where they come from and are really appreciative.
I've been lucky enough to be the liaison this year from the board, and I've got to watch this all happen over many weeks and months over the school year. And I just want my colleagues to know how comprehensive this group is that goes through these applications with the fine tooth comb. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of back and forth. So they don't take these applications lightly at all. And I can see how much time and commitment that the foundation puts in. And I just want to express my own appreciation for that.
And also thank the teachers. I know how much work and time it takes the teachers and administrators who actually apply to these grants, not knowing that if they may be approved or not, because it just, I was on the CSF board and I had the pleasure of working with Todd for a very short time, but it's a lot of work on all sides and all ends. And, teachers trying to push themselves also to think and be innovative of how can we serve our students in a different way and more exciting ways. And I think it's just a testament to show that, when schools and schools and community members and foundations and everybody who cares for our kids work together and come together and work collaboratively, thinking, talking through everything and what is the best way to serve our students, I think things like this happen. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm proud of us. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to the CSF. Appreciate you. All right, so I just want to announce the tent is on the agenda, which means if you have a senior, the end is near. And so we are always excited when we put this, it's like we've reached a milestone. So this is on the agenda for your consideration tonight. And so we have a lot of activities happening between now and spring break. And I think the most notable one is that we have the Addams Family taking place. It's starting tomorrow here at Horace Greeley, which is why we're in this room. And then we have a bunch of performances. And on Monday night, we have our PTA budget forum. I'm not confident we're going to have a meeting next Wednesday, but we'll make that decision on Monday because it doesn't sound like the governor's office will be prepared to sign a budget. And so I'll just continue to communicate out with our families, when the next meeting would be where we would be considering a budget for your adoption. So our next budget forum, though, will be, or opportunity to ask questions on the budget from the community, will be on Monday night, and we'll tape that so people who can't attend can certainly watch it. And we have an a cappella concert next week as well.